Hello students, now I am going to explain about the sampling theory. In a subject, complex analysis, probability and statistical methods. So before going to start the sampling theory, first we should know what is the meaning and what is the application of this sampling process. So what is meant by sampling? Sampling is nothing but the selection of a part of the aggregate statistical material with a view to obtaining information about the whole thing. Similarly, population or universe, it's a next definition. The aggregate or totality of statistical information on a particular character of all the members covered by an investigation is called population or universe. What is mean by sample? Sample is nothing but the selected part which is used to ascertain the characteristics of population is called as sample. You can take best example. So here if you now for example just we are preparing the rice, just we want to know whether the rice is boiled or not. So we are not going to check each and every pieces of the that broken rice. So just we are going to take one small, only one or two, that piece only we are going to take rice in that boiled vessel. So if that with that only we can clearly we can come to the conclusion that whether the rice is boiled or not. It means what we are choosing to check whether the rice is boiled or not, that only we are going to call it as a sample. And the whole thing in a vessel, how much the what is the quantity of rice is there na, that only we are going to call it as a population or universe. Now the next definition is population size. Population size is we are going to denote that as a capital N. It is the total number of members of the population, and sample size is denoted by small n. It is denoted by small n only. It is the number of included in the sample. What is the main objective of this sampling means to obtain the maximum information about the population with the minimum effort and also minimum time. That is what the main application of this sampling. Now we'll discuss some of the important types of sampling is there. So first we'll see the first one, that is random sampling. Here sampling must be random. It is the method of selection of a group of units in such a manner that every unit comprising the population has an equal chance of being included in the sample. So random sampling means it is just suddenly they can go for this experiment. Purposive sampling means already before only they well planned. That is purposive sampling. When the sample is selected based on the individual judgment of the sampler, it is called purposive sampling. Stratified sampling is nothing but the population is subdivided into several parts called as strata, and then subsample is chosen from each of them. Then all the subsamples combined together, that only we are going to call it as a stratified sampling. In a sampling again two types will be there, that is with replacement and without replacement. So now sampling where a member of population may be selected more than once, so it is having the more time chance. So each and every element which is having the equal chance, more than one time also they may select, that only we are going to call it as a sampling with replacement. If the member cannot be chosen more than once, once if we choose any one item from that population means we won't replace that. So it means that item is not having one more chance. That type of selection only we are going to call it as a without replacement. So now simple sampling. What is mean by this simple sampling is nothing but it's a special case of random sampling in which are independent and the probability of success is a constant. The word statistics is often used for the random variable or for its value. Sampling distribution. Let us suppose that we have different sample size n drawn from the population. For each and every sample of size n, we cannot compute quantities like mean, standard deviation, variance. This are all we can't find out for each and everything. Obviously, these will not be the same also. Suppose we group these characteristics according to their frequency, means the frequency distribution so generated is called as what? Sampling distribution. So which is correspondence to that mean, standard deviation and variance. The sampling distribution of larger sample is assumed to be normal distribution. The standard deviation of sampling distribution is also called as standard error. The reciprocal of the standard error only we are going to call it as a precision. So these are things, just definitions, you people has to remember that. Now, sampling distribution of the mean and sample variables. Sample mean is a statistic and we discuss the sampling distribution of the statistic. We consider all possible random samples of size n and determine the mean of each and every sample. We discuss the sampling distribution of the sample mean. So already I told you in a sampling two types is there. One is with replacement and the next one more is without replacement. That only we are going to discuss in the next slide. So first we'll discuss about this random sampling with replacement. Here in a with replacement means we one time if you choose and means again we have to replace. It means that item is having one more chance to select that. Okay, that is what random sampling with replacement. Here the items are drawn one by one and we have to replace back into that population before the next drawn. Capital N denotes the finite, that size of the population, and small n represents the size of the sample. To find out how many samples are there means in a with replacement, the formula is capital N to the power small n. And here the terms you have to remember: mu x, that represents the mean of the sample, and mu represents the mean of the population. Similarly, that sigma square is the variance of the population and sigma x bar square is the variance of the sample. What is the relationship between these two? It means variance of mean and also that population, means that is sigma square by n. That only we written in this slide. You just see here mu x bar which is equals to mu. So it means what? Mean of the population, mean of the sample, both same only. But variance of the population, variance of the sample will be different, which is having some relation. What is that relation? Means sigma x bar square which is equals to sigma square divided by n. That only you have to remember here. Here sigma x bar is nothing but standard error of the mean. Now we'll see the next one. The next one more type is random sampling without replacement. It means once if we choose any one item is we are not going to replace it back. So one more item we can choose. So only one time only having the chance. So here to find out the number of a sample we are going to use the formula NCN, capital NCN. That is the formula we are going to use to find out the number of samples. So here also we have to remember the relationship between that mean and also variance of the population and also the that sample. So mu x bar which is equals to mu, it means mean of the population which is equals to mean of the sample. Sigma x square x bar square which is equals to c into sigma square divided by n. What does mean by c? Means capital N minus n divided by capital N minus 1. That you have to remember. So here the relationship between mean and variance, sampling with replacement, without replacement, that we have to remember here. So the next one is standard error. What does mean by standard error? The standard deviation of the sampling distribution of the statistics is known as the standard error. It plays an important role in the theory of large samples. So here that we are going to denote it as a z is equals to x bar minus mu, that divided by sigma divided by square root of n. It is normally distributed with mean 0 and variances unity. So the next one is statistical hypothesis. What is meant by hypothesis? Hypothesis is nothing but it is just a statement. A statistical hypothesis is an assertion or conjecture about the distribution of one or more random variables. This is what statistical hypothesis. How to test this hypothesis means the hypothesis formulated for the purpose of its rejection, that only we are going to call it as a null hypothesis, and we are going to denote that as a H naught. The alternative or else that complementary to this null hypothesis is called as what? Alternative hypothesis. We are going to denote that as a H1. So null hypothesis means H0 and alternative means that is H1. So while solving the problems, here you have to hypothesis means it is a statement. We have to define the statement. So in a problem, suppose they given problems for that statement like hypothesis means, then how we have to define the hypothesis in certain cases. For example, to test whether a processor B is better than the processor A, then how we have to frame, how we have to write the hypothesis means there is no difference between the process A and B. Similarly, to test whether there is a relationship between two variables means, then how we have to frame this hypothesis means there is no relationship between them. Like that we have to define the hypothesis. Now we'll see the last one, critical region. What is meant by this critical region? A region corresponding to a statistics in the sample space, yes, which amounts to rejection of the null hypothesis H0 is called critical region or the region of rejection. The rejection of the sample S which amounts to the acceptance of H0 is called as acceptance region. So here critical region is nothing but in a normal curve some standard point will be there. The obtained value is lies within that region means that is acceptance region. If more than that means that is rejection. That only they defined here. So thank you.